Hey guys, and welcome to this impromptu episode of the Closers Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Mark Alvarado. With me today is my co-host, Quinn, the Moondog Kalani, also known as the most rabid UFC MMA fan I have ever met in my life, which is why we're doing this episode today. We watched one of the most entertaining cards of a UFC event that I've ever witnessed personally, and Quinn definitely would agree with me on that. We're going to be discussing and going over Quinn's perspective, Quinn's opinions on last night's UFC 249, which was headlined by Justin Gaethje fighting Tony Ferguson. But we'll get to that in a little bit. We're going to start by going over the last preliminary fight, which should have been on the main card and should have been switched with Greg Hardy's fight, which he defeated Yorgan de Castro by unanimous decision. But let's jump right into Anthony Pettis and Donald Cerrone. What happened during this fight, Quinn?
So Anthony Pettis versus Donald Cerrone, it was a spectacular fight. Two real veterans, OGs of the game on the latter end of the career. Really putting on this contest, not so much for a meritocracy, a step up the ladder, if you will, but this one is for glory, pretty much. About 5-6 years ago, Anthony Pettis had defeated Donald Cerrone via TKO with a liver kick, and punches followed up. This fight was completely the opposite. From bell to bell, it was contested, ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys. Donald Cerrone really made a strong showing for himself after suffering that defeat by the hands of Conor McGregor in, it was like 90 seconds. He really came back strong with this one. You could tell in his posture, in his demeanor. He looked thick, he looked strong, and what I was really impressed with Donald Cerrone is, he tends to be a bit of a slow starter, if you will. But in this one, man, he seemed really well prepped. He was really well prepped. He was just very well prepared. And, man, it was a stellar fight. Anthony Pettis ended up winning by decision. That is contestable. I myself had scored it for Donald Cerrone. But Anthony Pettis did get the nod. But it was an amazing fight.
It was a unanimous decision. Unanimous. Yeah, it was unanimous.
Yeah, I think it was, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was a unanimous decision, and honestly, I think that's bullshit. I think Cerrone won that last round, personally.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was that last round.
Clearly, he won the last round. At least, in my opinion, it was clear. The other two rounds, I mean, I wouldn't argue with anyone who thought Anthony Pettis won the fight. Mm-hmm. It was that contestable. It was that good of a scrap. But I lean toward Donald.
Yeah, it was a good fight. It was definitely interesting.
Compared to the Greg Hardy Yorgan de Castro fight, night and day.
Yeah.
Greg Hardy, is an amazing athlete. I think that's indisputable. His fast twitch muscles, his memory, everything included with that is stellar, man. His agility, his explosion, but the technique isn't completely there. If I'm 100% honest with you, I don't think he's really at a UFC level. He's in my eyes, he's much more of a Bellator fighter.
Yeah.
But Yorgan de Castro showed up, but didn't show up to fight. It seemed like
his foot got hurt too.
Yeah, that first round he made a real good showing for himself. Early in that second round, as you noted, he did hurt his foot when Greg Hardy checked a leg kick. It looked like the top of the foot or maybe the toes had bounced off the shin in an awkward position, and it kind of jacked him up.
Yeah.
And then from there, he just looked like he wasn't willing to engage. Which, I mean, is understandable. Greg Hardy has, inhuman power, as I'm sure several women could attest to. But
it's true. unfortunately.
It was somewhat of a lackluster affair.
Yeah, that fight was pretty boring. But then we jump to Calvin Kattar. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
Fighting and defeating Jeremy Stevens by TKO, elbows, and punches in the second round at 2:42.
This was my fight to watch.
Yes, it was.
If you remember me saying it, I'm real high on Calvin Kattar. He's a Boston guy. Man, his boxing is crisp. Really knows how to keep his opponent at the end of his punches. And I mean, what we saw was Calvin Kattar taking that next step. You know, he's officially entered the next echelon of fighters. You know, that 6-1 contender range. Jeremy Stevens, it sucks to say, but he's somewhat of a measuring stick. You know, almost like a gatekeeper.
Damn.
You know, that separates, you know, the cream of the crop from the rest of the litter, unfortunately.
So he's an Idris Elba from the Thor franchise. He's the guy that controls the
the Bifrost.
Lever. Yeah, the Bifrost.
Yeah, kind of, man. And I'm not trying to be disparaging in any way, shape, or form when I say that. You know, little Heathen Stevens is a veteran of the game. He landed some hard shots on Calvin Kattar, man, but he seemed like he was having a hard time getting inside. And Calvin Cater's use of range was incredibly deceptive when he stepped in for that step in elbow, man.
Yeah,
it took all the life right out of Jeremy Stevens.
Yeah, that was pretty, dude. Just seeing that, an elbow, so boom, you know that shit.
It was nasty, man.
It was rough. It was rough to watch, man. Oof,
it was super nasty. I'd love to see Calvin Cater's next step. I don't know, man. See, he had just fought Zabit Magomed-Sharipov, and he lost a decision against Zabit. And I don't think they're immediately going to run that back. But Calvin Kattar versus Brian T. City Ortega, East Coast versus West Coast, would be a real legit affair that I think
that'd be interesting.
I think would be real good for both fighters at this juncture of their career.
That sounds good. Can't wait to see Kattar fight again because he definitely impressed me. Now, this is a quick question, but it says here that his weight class is catch weight.
Yeah, him and Jeremy Stevens fought at catch weight for this bout. Typically, they fight at 145 featherweight, but apparently Jeremy Stevens came in above the allotted weight limit.
Oh, okay.
So they just bounced it up from 145 to 150.
Gotcha. All right, and then we got, after this was Francis Ngannou. That's how you pronounce his name, right?
Yeah.
Who knocked the fuck out of I don't know his first name, but his last name is
Jairzinho Rozenstruik.
Rozenstruik, yeah. He got struck the fuck out. That's what happened to him. That was insane. Quinn, what are your thoughts about that fight?
Fight lasted all of about 22 to 25 seconds. Francis Ngannou came out like a man possessed, a man on a mission, and rightfully so. You know, there are industry insiders and those within the industry that feel that this could have easily been for the interim heavyweight title. Of course, Stipe Miocic is out. He is a first responder, so he has obligations outside of fighting that he is adhering to. And Daniel Cormier has taken the position, you know, he's not fighting anyone not named Stipe Miocic. So, in all honesty, no one is sure when we may actually get the lineal UFC undisputed heavyweight title defended. Francis Ngannou, at the very least,
deserves a shot.
Deserves his second shot at the belt. And man, he came out like a blitzkrieg, dude, and just started throwing Hulk smash bombs on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Freaking, he had no respect for Jairzinho's stand-up whatsoever or his presence, man. He came in there with a mission, with a goal to make a loud, decorative statement, and I think he accomplished that in spades, man. Francis Ngannou is a savage.
Dude, he was straight up the Hulk, bro. He went Hulk on him.
Oh, it was insane, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I said this while we were watching the replay last night. He missed on 3 haymakers
Mm.
and connected on the 4th.
Like the juggernaut,
And-
man. His forward momentum could not be stopped.
Just knocked him out. And that's what's crazy is like most like normal people, you throw 2 of those punches, you're gassed. And this fool straight up threw 4, hit him on the 4th, and then dropped him and kept hitting him after. Like they were like the stamina, bro. Craziness. Crazy.
It was
Wild.
It was awesome. It was awesome. I'm really excited to see. Hopefully, Francis is validated with the title shot, man, because there's few people in the sport that deserve it more than what Francis has been able to do recently.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. Now, this next fight was interesting for a number of reasons. And Quinn, I'm assuming you're going to sound off on why you feel this way. But the next fight is Henry Cejudo fighting Dominic Cruz for I believe, the bantamweight
Yeah.
belt. And Henry Cejudo defeated Dominic Cruz via a very controversial TKO stoppage in the second round at 4:58. So, what do you think about Henry Cejudo? Maybe not in this fight, but just in general.
I'm not a Henry Cejudo fan. I understand his gimmick. He's kind of taken this this juvenile Floyd Mayweather approach where I'm going to get everyone to hate me, therefore they'll buy to see me get my ass whooped kind of approach.
Yeah.
I don't think it's worked.
Yeah, it did.
And
It hasn't. Casual fans don't tune in to see him get
my
knocked out.
personal opinion is, Demetrius Johnson Henry Cejudo did not defeat Demetrius Johnson in their second fight in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And his kind of, I don't want to say he's a champion in all but truth. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has the belt, he has the acclaim and all the benefits that go with it. But anyone with a set of eyes who watched his rematch with Demetrius Johnson, no one. I have not met a single person that has scored that fight for Henry Cejudo. And consensus, I feel very comfortable in saying worldwide consensus is that Demetrius Johnson not only won that fight, but is the flyweight GOAT and uncrowned champion. So, I don't know. I've never really been a big Henry Cejudo guy. Plus, he blasted my guy TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah, he did, unfortunately.
And I don't know. This fight's kind of a win-win, personally, because I'm not a big Dominic Cruz guy either. Us being Sacramentoians. Mm-hmm. Dominic Cruz has ran through the stable of Team Alpha Male.
Yeah. Yeah, he has. Oh, he has.
So the fact that Dominic Cruz lost, I'm not weeping. And the fact that Henry Cejudo is retiring, I'm not against either. There is some dispute out there that perhaps this was just a ploy to renegotiate his contract.
I don't know.
Hopefully it's not, and he legitimately wants to retire.
I hope so. He was annoying. That was the first Henry Cejudo fight I ever watched because I just really didn't buy into any of the hype. And honestly, this fight didn't really impress me either.
Well, he's an amazing competitor. He's an amazing athlete. I mean, Olympic gold medalist 2008. He was the youngest American to ever win an Olympic gold medal in freestyle wrestling. I mean, he did win a contest against Demetrius Johnson for the flyweight belt. Defended that belt against TJ Dillashaw. Beat Marlon Moraes for the vacant bantamweight title, and now defended against Dominic Cruz, who was, consensusly regarded as the bantamweight GOAT. So,
yeah,
I mean, his resume, his record is impeccable, but the guy himself, man, he's just a hard guy to root for.
I understand. And now,
it's
time for the main event.
The stoppage.
Oh.
The stoppage itself was.
Yeah. Sorry.
Was a bit ridiculous. I don't know if it was ridiculous, but it was certainly controversial. He hit Dominic Cruz flush with a knee as Dominic was changing levels, and clearly Dominic was rocked. He
he was,
freaking
yeah.
almost he fell horizontal. He was damn near
Yeah,
horizontal.
it was like it was like a tree falling down.
Face was all contorted.
Yeah.
But he did seem to recover somewhat, and he was making his way up to his feet when the referee stopped it. That being said, I mean, 5 more seconds.
Yeah.
Maybe Henry lays it on more. But now that he's retired, I honestly I could care less.
Me too. Me too. Yeah, that was an interesting stoppage, but I think it was honestly the right call. Just because too, I was getting a little tired of that fight, so I was just like, all right, yeah, it's fine if it's over for me, honestly. And I was right for wanting it to be over, because the final fight of the night, the main event that we got, was definitely a sight to behold. Maybe not for like traditional standards, because it was like a war, but it was just a true display of Tony Ferguson's stamina and his ability to take punishment. And he was defeated by Justin Gaethje by TKO in the 5th round, time of 3:39. What do you think about this fight, Quinn?
It was insane. It was one of the best fights of the year. I'd say it's probably number 2 behind Zhang Weili and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Their bout that I believe took place in early March. Man, this fight was insane. The first round, it looked like Tony was being Tony. He was loose. He was creative. He was his pressure was unrelenting. His forward pressure, man. When you fight Tony Ferguson, you might as well be fighting underwater, man, because there's nowhere to breathe. That being said, Justin Gaethje looked phenomenal, especially in the second round. Now, he did get dropped with a nasty uppercut from Tony Ferguson in the second round, but I really felt like the 2nd through the 5th rounds were securely Justin Gaethje's. Man, his ability to throw bombs on the inside, maintaining trunk movement, shoulder rolls, and head movement, all the while just countering with heavy shots, was supremely impressive. This is not the Justin Gaethje of 3 years ago, who's just down for a brawl and made the toughest man win, as we saw against Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier, 2 fights in which he was finished late. This Justin Gaethje is measured, he's controlled, and man, he knows when to unleash hell. It was for all the praises we could heap upon Tony Ferguson for his heart, for his his soul, his heart, his stamina, his perseverance, man, equally should be heaped upon Justin Gaethje. These 2 guys, man, went into the octagon and sacrificed it all upon the altar of brutality. And man, I truly feel there's no other sport that rivals that sort of drama. Because there is so much on the line, and the implications coming out of this far exceed everything coming in. As I stated multiple times, that Tony Ferguson versus Khabib Nurmagomedov was probably the most anticipated lightweight bout in the 25-year history of the UFC.
Oh, for sure.
And you can kiss that goodbye.
It'll never happen now. No.
I mean, I'm not saying it will never happen, but I feel very strongly and safely that we could say that Tony Ferguson is going to have to at least win 2 more fights before he can get to a title shot against top 6 opponents, man.
But how old will that be? How old will he be then?
He would be 38.
That's my question. Oh, God. It's not the same, man. It's like Pacquiao and Mayweather fighting like way past each other's primes. It's just like,
what I thought was interesting about this fight is that Tony never took it to the floor. His jiu-jitsu is insane, man. And, I believe he has more submission finishes than he does finishes, standing. He's a 10th Planet guy. Submissions from the bottom, darces, triangles, submissions from the top. He's real gangster.
I'm surprised he didn't take it to the ground, because he even said in this post-fight interview, he was like, I prepared for Khabib, he's not really much of a striker, so I prepared my ground game. It's like, then why didn't you take it to the ground? Why didn't you do that then? Then what are you doing standing up and banging with this guy who has nothing to lose?
Well, I feel like maybe, the moment got to Tony a little bit. Maybe Justin, kind of no-selled the fight for the whole week, and then by the time it got there, he kind of made the impression that it was a brawl.
Yeah.
Instead of, a number one contender bout, which is ultimately what an interim title is.
Yeah. So do you think that now Justin Gaethje deserves to fight Khabib for the title?
Unequivocally.
At this point?
Unequivocally. From a meritocracy standpoint, it has to happen. I mean, a return to normalcy is what we would like.
Yeah.
We all appreciate Conor McGregor and the eyes he brings to the sport, but no one deserves a title shot over a win. If your last win was Cowboy Cerrone. And I'm not trying to disparage Cowboy Cerrone, but, let's be honest.
He's not the same dude. He's not the same dude.
He's not the same guy from a couple years ago. He's not the same guy from 2 years ago. So, I think, I don't know, man. I hope if the MMA gods smile upon us, Conor McGregor will have nothing to do with Khabib for at least the next couple of months. Until Khabib and Justin Gaethje, who are right now, I feel comfortable saying, are the number 1 and 2 lightweights in the world, until they settle it.
I think what needs to happen, Nate versus Conor.
Nate versus Conor 3.
Justin versus Khabib.
That's what has to happen. Of course,
same card.
We have to
same Al.
We have to shout out the all-natural NorCal ninja himself, Nate Diaz. Apparently, there's a bit of a social media squabbling between him and Conor McGregor last night.
Oh, nice.
Conor McGregor made the implication that there's a bout contract out there floating between him and Nate. So, who knows?
That has to happen.
I don't know. I personally don't believe Conor wants that smoke.
I don't know, man. He might feel confident after he beat up Cowboy, and then after Masvidal beat up
he did. Nate. First of all, Masvidal did not beat up Nate. Masvidal did nothing to Nate.
What?
And if I could critique Jorge Masvidal, you said in ring you did not baptize this man. You were gonna run it back. Well, where are you now? Thought you were a man of your word. Jorge. You had an OG like Nick Diaz, the sensei himself, come on Ariel Helwani's show and call you out. Where you at, Jorge? Where you at, bro? Stay on the east. Stay on the East Coast. Come to Northern California, you might get crucified to a telephone pole, pimp. So I'd say stay on the East Coast.
Damn. Threatening words. All right, so that's basically what we got.
Well, I have a question for you, real quick.
I have a I was gonna ask you a question.
All right, go ahead
to end it. How'd you feel about like the format? There's no fans.
I loved it.
You're able to hear everything.
I loved it. I mean, there is like a certain aspect, it would have been great to have fans for the Gaethje Ferguson fight because you would have been able to feel their reactions.
Yeah.
To the ebbs and flows of the fight. But at the same time, man, that empty arena gave us a auditory aspect I had never experienced in all the fights I'd ever watched. Every solid shot that connected via the hands, the feet, the elbows, or the knees sounded like a gunshot in an empty valley, man. It was insane. That was awesome. It was almost addicting. Some people get on YouTube and they just watch videos of people's backs getting cracked.
Yeah.
And it becomes like a thing now. Man, I don't know if I want to go back to,
with like fans.
Fight fans. I don't know if I want to hear someone in the background go, "Put him in a body bag." When I could just hear the sound of bone smashing against bone.
That's pretty That's pretty gnarly.
The concussive echo ringing through the arena. It was insane.
Yeah.
My question for you is, this was the first live sporting event we've had in 2 months.
Yeah.
You're a big live sports guy, more so than me. You know, I kind of just stay towards MMA and football.
I'm a jack of all trades.
You have a more broader umbrella. How did it feel for you to get live sports back up in your life?
It felt great, dude. It felt really nice to finally be able to kind of kick back and just watch history unfold and kind of forget, the state of our, government, the state of our country, the state of our world for a couple hours and just hang out with some friends and, of course, staying under the limit of, the stay-at-home order. You can't have more than like 6 people. We had like 3 people in a room, so it's fine. But it was really fun, and it was really nice to just kind of let loose and just hang out for a little bit. I miss that a lot.
Do you think other sports will follow suit now that the UFC has done it, or do you think the UFC is unique in the fact that they can do it?
I think the UFC is unique. I mean, WWE's been doing it for the entire time. All I'm saying is they've been doing it for the entire time. I'm not saying
I'd
that
hate
UFC
to have
and
to
WWE
go.
are, like,
I'd
right.
hate to have to become one of Ronda Rousey's haters, but let's
Dang.
make a clear distinction.
Well, no, there is a clear distinction. I mean, I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just saying that
I'm not saying
WWE's
one's
been
better
doing
than
it
the other
entire time.
either, but I don't know.
I mean,
man.
all I'm saying is I think 1v1 sports, it's easier to separate people out. It's easier to put on events when there's one sole human being going up against another one sole human being. And at the end of the day, basketball teams are not comprised of just one person. Football teams are not comprised of just one person. I think the MMA, and I would lump in wrestling too, are unique in that way, where they can put on events. UFC and MMA being, I think, a lot better than the WWE at putting on events without any fans. But I still think I think it is unique.
Man, I would have to disqualify WWE wrestling from that, man, because of the choreography aspect of it. You can control and measure the amounts and the amount of time when physical contact is necessary.
That's fine. I mean, but how does that disqualify? I don't think that disqualifies anything. I think that's just they have more control over the things that happen on screen. Sure.
Yeah. Well, so what I'm saying is that they can, you can throw someone in the turnbuckle, but you don't exactly have to be breathing in their face.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Regardless, you're still within 6 feet of them. I mean, that's going to happen. So, I mean, all I'm saying is WWE has been doing it ever since this whole outbreak popped off. UFC had to figure some logistical things out because of exactly what you're saying. But I think it is unique, and I'm not sure if the NBA or NFL are going to be able. I don't know if the NBA is going to restart their season or have a postseason. I don't know if the NFL is going to be able to have a season at all. I mean, they put out their schedule, which we'll be talking about next week. But I mean, we'll see. But I do know that UFC 250 is definitely going to be just as fun, and I can't wait for it. So,
yeah, I mean, I love it, man. This is a sport that I've championed and cherished for a long time. I think the drama involved with it is unparalleled across every sports medium. Part of me is thrilled that it's back, and that is it is for my viewing pleasure, and part of me hopes that not a lot of people watch it because
why? You don't want more fight fans?
It's not that I don't want more fight fans. It's that I don't want more ignorant fight fans.
Oh, my God. Okay.
I don't want mindless recruits to the Conor McGregor army.
Well, I mean, everyone starts somewhere. That's all I'm going to say. Everyone starts somewhere. I started as a mindless recruit in the Chuck Liddell army, so, I mean...
Yeah, everyone starts somewhere, but, there's an expectation that if you're going to, cross the invisible boundary between casual to hardcore, that there's an academic research quality involved. I can't profess to being a hockey fan when I can't tell you who won the Stanley Cup last year.
Yeah.
Or if I can't name more than 5 players, or in MMA's case 5 fighters.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is unique. But we'll see what happens.
I'm hoping it remains kind of a niche, kind of a fringe thing. Hopefully. But
we'll see. This whole if the UFC is the only sporting event that can happen for the next couple months, we'll see what happens during that time. But it'll definitely be interesting, and we will definitely talk more about it next week. If you're listening to this on Sunday, the 10th, Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. And we will have an episode with Terrell Tucker, also known as Breathe Heavy, from Hopkinsville, Kentucky, one of Quinn's oldest friends. And we talked to him about his music, the time he opened for Kendrick Lamar, and a couple other things. If you're interested, please check that out. And what, Quinn?
If I may, I just thought of something. Is it fair that mothers and fathers get 2 days out of the year for celebration?
Oh, my God. Yes. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Children don't. Children don't. Let's be honest. You only get one birthday as a child. If you're a mother or your father, even if you're a bad mother or father, you get your birthday and you get a whole day dedicated to you.
I mean, there's Christmas.
Okay, so you get 3 days dedicated to you?
I don't really have an opinion on that.
Just think about it. It's just something to think about.
Okay, well, we will talk to you guys soon. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Closers Podcast. Please follow us on Instagram at The Closers Podcast. And we also have a Facebook page at Closers Podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. It was really fun to do this little impromptu UFC 249 recap. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.